G'day, it's Andy here from IOGN, and today I want to give you a few simple tips on how to make great milk for your lattes and your flat whites at home from your home espresso machine. Now, we have all been there. We've gone and spent the money on an espresso machine, sometimes a lot of money on an espresso machine, and we expect that we should just be able to pour the milk in the jug, put it under the steam wand, heat it up, and away we go. It should be fantastic. But as we've learnt, there's still some skill involved, there's still some things to know, so I'm going to give you some tips today, and hopefully that'll help you get from wherever you're at to a better grade of milk. And you know, you'll start to produce stuff that resembles something a lot more like at the cafe, that creamy, smooth, velvety milk with the microfoam, and then you'll start producing some really great coffee. Alright, so we're going to get into it now. So the first message I want to make really clear is that with any coffee making process, we're looking for consistency. We want to do the same process from start to finish every single time. That way, if something goes a little bit wrong, doesn't quite work as well as we hoped, we know what we can change. The other thing is, when it's going right, you can replicate that process time after time, and you can just keep making great coffee, which is the ultimate goal. We want to just be able to turn the machine on, make a great coffee every time. So first things to consider: one, a clean milk jug. Never reuse milk. Always start with a clean batch of milk. It's impossible to reheat milk and make it great. I always fill the milk to the same spot in the jug, which I've worked out to be just the perfect amount to make my one coffee in a single coffee in a mug, because that's the most common coffee that I make. So I know exactly where I need to fill it up, and for me, it's just below this spout. That gives me just enough milk once I've finished heating the milk. So we start with a clean milk jug. We're going to add the same amount of milk, and we always want that milk to be cold, out of the fridge, that 4 degrees. We start with cold milk because that allows the rest of the process to happen a lot easier. So starting with those things, and then we'll move on from there. Alright, so we've got milk in our jug. We're ready to heat it up, but before we actually put the wand into the jug, there's a couple of things we want to understand. The first thing is, what is milk? What are we working with here? Because if you understand the process that's happening, you're going to actually get better results, because you won't break the natural rules of a food product. Milk is a food product, so it has some properties that we need to work within to get a great tasting coffee. The first thing is, you can't heat milk too hot. Gone are the days of the I'll have the extra hot cappuccino, thanks. It should be banned. There's a reason for it. It's because it changes the taste of the milk after a certain temperature, and that temperature is around about 68 degrees Celsius. So you don't want your milk to be hotter than that, because it physically changes the properties of the milk. The proteins and things change. So heating milk is a 2-stage process. The first stage is stretching, so changing the volume from the original volume to the desired volume after the stretching. And the second stage is actually just finishing the heating process of the milk. So when we're stretching the milk, we're going to start with our same amount of milk every time, and we're going to stretch it between fridge cold at 4 degrees up until a point that we call neutral, which is when in my hand it no longer feels hot or cold, because the hand is at approximately 37 degrees. That's the temperature of my body, which is a beautiful natural marker for a product like milk, because milk actually changes at 37 degrees as well. It's a slight chemical change. So we want to be only stretching the milk until the point where it gets to neutral, because that's where we get our beautiful little microfoam bubbles. We don't really want to see those bubbles. We don't want those big ugly bubbles. All of that happens if you keep stretching after it starts to feel warm in the hand. Only stretch to neutral. Key lesson. The second part of the heating process is just taking it from that 37 degrees up to 60 degrees, which is the ideal temperature. 61, 2, that's okay. All of that. It's not that important if you're not right on 60, but you just don't want to be at 68. And even a 65 degree coffee is starting to get pretty hot. So we're shooting for 60 degrees. You can use a milk thermometer if you can't quite get there with your hand. But the trick I use is to heat until my hand can no longer hold on to the jug. It's too hot for me to hang on to the jug. I let go and I leave the steam wand on for another 3 to 5 seconds maybe, and then I turn it off. And it heats from that, when I let go, it's probably about 55 degrees, and then it heats up to around about that 60 degree temperature, which is perfect for what we're trying to do for our lattes, flat whites, that sort of thing. So stretch to neutral, and then heat from neutral up until that 60 degree temperature. 55, take our hand off when it's too hot, turn it off after 5 more seconds of heating. We should be about right. And if you're not sure, you can use a little milk thermometer to get up to that temperature. Okay, so now we're at the point where we're going to actually do the stretching of the milk. So breaking down that stretching process, we say it's between 4 and 37 degrees until it's neutral. The mistake a lot of people make when they're stretching milk is they get too much of that sound. So what we want to do, first thing you want to do is always flush the steam wand out first, get rid of all the condensation out of the wand so it's all just steam. Then we're going to put the tip of the steam wand below the surface of the milk, and we'll start it once it's inside. We don't start it and then put it on because that'll create crazy bubbles. We're going to put it in there and then we're going to turn it on, and we're going to have it just below, and then we'll lower the milk jug so that we just start to get the noise. Now, in this case, less is often more, because if you do it too much, you get big, crazy, ugly bubbles. We don't want that. We're looking for smooth, creamy milk, and you get that from stretching with just a hint of that sound. Sometimes you have hardly any and you get the best looking milk. So stretching cold milk to 37 and only a little, flush your steam wand and only a little bit of the sound. And we're trying to make a gentle whirlpool in the jug, just a gentle whirlpool, not spinning too fast. You don't want it too close to the edge because it'll burn the milk. You want it somewhere near the middle, just gently spinning away. When the steam wand heats the edge of the milk too much, that's when it overheats the milk and you get huge, ugly bubbles. So near the middle, gentle whirlpool, just the slightest sound, and you just will lower the jug to get that until you get the desired sound. Alright, so the second half of the heating process is purely just heating the milk up to the temperature that we want. We've stopped stretching so that we stop getting the big bubbles. Now all we're going to do is we'll lift the jug up a little bit and we'll lower the tip of the steam wand deeper into the milk to stop the noise. Now all we're looking for is just a gentle whirlpool with the steam wand somewhat near the middle, just enough to make it turn round and round like this. It takes a little bit of practice sometimes to get that beautiful little whirlpool going, but once you get it, you'll find it's fairly quiet. All the noisy stuff is already finished and gone. We're just getting it gently warmed up to the right temperature. And again, until it's too hot to hold, we let go and then we turn it off. Now make sure that the wand has finished pumping out steam before you pull the jug off, because otherwise you'll get a as well and you'll wreck all your nice work. But after you've finished that, turn the wand off, take the jug off, okay? And then we're at a point where we're gonna start thinking about pouring the milk. All right, so now we've got nice, warm, velvety smooth, creamy microfoam milk, the best you can possibly make, of course, after a little bit of practice. We've got the milk, but what do we do with it now? What's the next step towards getting that good coffee? Well, from here you'll often see in the cafe they will tap the jug on the bench. Now what that's doing is, if you do happen to get a few of the bigger bubbles on the top, that actually just takes the air out of those big bubbles and leaves you with something that's closer to a microfoam. That's all that's left. It doesn't matter what you do, you quite often will just get a few stray big bubbles on a home domestic machine. I get it all the time, easily fixed by tapping on the bench and settling out that bubble. The next thing after that is we're going to polish the milk. It's called polishing. You'll see it's a sideways action like this. It's a shaking of the jug sideways like this. So what it does is it creates a wave inside the jug, and then it actually folds the milk in over on itself. So that way you're mixing the more bubbly foam at the top with the less bubbly foam at the bottom. And the idea is that it keeps that circulating until the point where you're ready to actually pour the milk, because if you just leave it on the bench, you know what that looks like if it just gets left behind, to get the funny bubbles on the top and the bottom's really, really liquidy. So we polish the milk side by side, and get it to fold in on itself. And that way it's all mixed together, and we're just about ready to finally put it into the cup and make a beautiful coffee. All right, so we're at a point now where we've got a jug full of nice, warm, creamy, velvety, smooth milk. We've tapped it, we've folded it, we've polished it. It's beautiful, ready to go. Okay, so we've got our shot in our cup and we're ready to actually pour the thing. Now, if you've got the milk part, the heating part right, you'll start to find no matter what you do in the cup, no matter how you pour it, you'll start to get lines and things that look like the lines that happen when they do those beautiful patterns in the cafe. So it means you're on the right track, and now it's just a case of practicing your latte art. That's a whole new lesson. It's a beast. I know that there was a turning point in Melbourne coffee history where all of a sudden if it didn't have latte art, the coffee was no good. But before latte art, there was still good coffee. This is just the icing on the cake. But I will give you one little tip here that will get you started on that path, and then you can practice from there. But if you take your cup, and now we're assuming it's got a shot of coffee in it, take our jug of warm milk, and we're going to tilt the cup just on an angle like this, and we're going to pour our milk at a medium to fast pace, and we're going to aim at the bottom corner, the closest corner to you of the cup. Now if you pour there, if you at a medium pace pour to that corner there, and don't move, just pour that straight in the cup as it fills up, and right at the end you give it that little kick. Slow up the pouring speed, give it a little kick. You will find that if you've got good milk and a good shot of coffee, you will very easily make a love heart, which is, it's beautiful, right? It's a good place to start. If you're making a love heart, your milk's good, your coffee's good, you're on the right track. All you got to do then is practice your art. But pour to the bottom corner of the cup, pour it, straighten up the cup, and then just go like that, and that's it. And you should end up with something that resembles a love heart, and it's going to look great, and you're going to feel good about your coffee, and you're going to know you're on the right track. So if you're getting that, thumbs up to you. If you're not, keep working at it. If you're getting that blob, the blob of milk, it means that you've got a little bit too thick, you've stretched it too much, or you've stretched it beyond neutral. If you're finding it's too thin and it doesn't make a define, the pattern doesn't look quite as good, maybe you need to stretch it a little bit more. I generally am stretching about 25% of my original volume, and that's enough for the cup that I'm using here with this jug, and there's always a little bit of wastage, but go forth, practice, get that good milk. You will find as soon as you got good milk, your coffee will improve dramatically. You'll start to be the envy of your friends at home. People will want to come around to your house for coffee, and the machine will start paying for itself. You're going to be happy, and that's what we want. So good luck. Let us know how you go. Send us some pictures if you start drawing some good art. I love seeing everyone's work. And otherwise, stay tuned for the other lessons. We're going to talk about how to make a good shot of coffee. Also how to brew different methods of coffee, grind size, all the important stuff. But for now, practice your milk, see how you go, and stay in touch. Thanks for watching.